Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm founder and CEO of TopCyberPro.com, Jim West. I have a wonderful guest today that we're going to talk about a couple different topics around cyber and get to hear about the life of a CEO of running a business that's trying to solve some problems in cybersecurity. Without further ado, here's Mr. Shekar of Pantherun Technologies. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me here. Yeah,
So,
it's wonderful to be part of this.
and thank you. And just so you folks know, we've had some scheduling conflicts. There was some. I dropped the ball at one point, but we got Mr. Sakar on, and so we're just going to get right into it. We're going to dive right into Pantherun Technologies. Can you give us the why? Why start your own business? There's so many businesses in cyber that are all fixing different problems, but what was the why behind you creating the idea of Pantherun Technologies?
Well, Jim, when you look at data, when you look at how IT and technology works, yeah, we see a lot of vulnerability, lots of attacks happening, and so on. And through my career, which so far has been about 30 years, I've encountered a lot of data, a lot of protection technologies, and so on. So Pantherun is just an attempt by a group of technocrats along with me. Yeah, we're looking at the problem of data, how to protect it, and how to protect it better. Quantum computers are coming, yeah, and if we can find a way that can protect data in a cost-effective way, that's why Pantherun.
Wonderful. And you mentioned a really cool word there. So, folks, you heard the word technocrat. And one of the other accolades that Mr. Sakar has on his profile, he is a innovator, a technology innovator. And so, can you kind of take us through what does that look like? What is the perspective if someone's watching this going, okay, technocrat sounds cool, technical innovator sounds cool. These are cool titles, but what would be the best day in the life of an innovator or a technocrat? What would that best day be? If you had to say the perfect day is this.
Oh, Jim, when you look at the kind of work that Pantherun typically does, it has a lot to do with hardware. It has a lot to do with the interfacing between hardware and software. So the day you can get small code compiled which can work on hardware, that's pretty much the best day we get. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, and then you go from there as long as you can build out technology that can work on hardware, work at high speeds.
Mhm.
That makes our day.
So for those of us watching, it's like, okay, he mentioned software and coding and he mentioned hardware. And sometimes it's hard for a lot of regular people to wrap their brains around it. But I'm going to give you the best analogy. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody uses their phone for email, texting, calls, messaging, surfing the internet, watching streaming videos and so forth. But this is at the end of the day, this is a piece of hardware that's in our hands, right? It's the physical things we touch, right? But the hardware is only as good as the way we can interface with it. And so that's where the coding and the software, our apps are what we see. We don't see a processor processing. We don't see the memory doing the work. The hardware we don't really see other than the screen that's in our hands. We don't know what's going on behind the screen, but we definitely see the results of the GUI, the applications, YouTube, Facebook, TikToks, or whatever apps you're using, your banking apps. The applications is the coding and software that makes the hardware useful. So I like that Pantherun is fully focused on that intersection of the software and data meets hardware. When it comes to challenges in getting code and hardware to interface to work together, what are some of the threats that maybe some folks aren't aware of that you and your company has to deal with on a regular basis to be mindful of as you're developing this code to interface with hardware?
We basically when you build products, so you gave a very good example of a phone. I mean, there are other examples like our car. Yeah, all of these have to work in real time. These are all mission critical. With products. Your phone, you use it for banking applications. You use it for so much of private information stored on it. Yeah. Cars likewise have to drive in a safe manner. Yeah. Coexist with other cars. We're having self-driven cars now. Yeah. So you need to make sure that things work in real time. You need to make sure that things respond in a very, very effective manner. When you want it to do something, it must do it in a certain amount of time. So that is what hardware and software have to make sure of. I mean, you need to write whatever code you write in an efficient way so that it can respond to user commands in a very, very effective way, in a real time way. So that's how I would see it.
So you mentioned coding, and we hear a lot in the news, and then everything that we read about, all the advancements in AI. And I know a lot of people watching going, "Oh God, not AI discussions again." And we're not going to go into an AI discussion, other than to say we hear a lot about, AI could generate malicious code, it could generate code, it can build websites, it could do so much of code generation or generative output. Well, let's start with the first part is what type of coding, if someone watching this right now says, "Hey, I hear that there's careers in coding, but they also hear about AI maybe taking over some of this work in developing generative code." What would be the advice you'd give someone that's watching right now to say, "Hey, if you had to start learning coding, what do you see as today's hot coding language, and what do you think in the future that's going to be? Is it the same, or is it maybe going to transition? What is your perspective?"
Well, Jim, I mean, I'm glad you got that AI thing out right away because I'm really not an AI expert. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very, very conventional guy in terms of building products. Yeah, not a big user of AI as well. Yeah, so when I look at whatever, I mean, you see around you today, I mean, I think AI has a lot of role to play. Yeah, it helps simplify a lot of things, helps speed up certain conventional decision making or the generic decision making. Yeah, it can analyze a lot of data, and it can also give you very, very good solutions very, very quickly, much faster than we can when we do things manually. But there are definitely lots of areas where AI still can't play a role. Yeah, when you look at I mean, when you look at communication itself, I mean, the bedrock of communication, you look at the way data is exchanged between multiple devices. All of
Mhm.
that, I mean, requires a lot of intricate programming, lots of intricate development, lots of know-how. Yeah, these are all areas where I don't think AI can generate code. Yeah, you need to be able to do it efficiently. You need to be able to do it in a very, very creative way. Yeah, so AI bases uh, whatever it does on something that's available to it that it can access and work with. Yeah. Now that kind of creativity still comes from I mean developers, human beings. Yeah. So I don't think AI plays that big a role when it comes to really very, very innovative, creative activity. Yeah, so
So my
so
second part,
anything
oh,
that
go ahead.
any kind of coding or development. Yeah, go ahead, please, please. So any coding technology, any coding languages, whether you take C, C++, Java, a lot of them go into a lot of innovative development, creative development. Yeah. Those are not places where AI was going to replace us. Yeah, but I mean, so you will see more and more of that. So when you look at the conventional code, there's a lot of code that AI will probably auto generate for you, and we can use that very effectively to make ourselves much more efficient in delivering solutions. But the underlying code that requires great levels of interaction with hardware, lots of creativity, lots of thought. Those are things that will still play a big role in.
I love that you mentioned creativity a few times in your response there because that's the most human thing about us all is our imagination, right? And even though generative AI can be impressive and like you said, how much time it can save doing certain tasks, but at the end of the day, when you think of the whole context of an application or an operations or series of operations you need done, it might be able to knock out the one and two, three tasks. But when it comes to designing the whole house and the whole application and how it's going to flow and humans are going to interact with it, it does takes a lot of imagination and creativity. So I love that creativity is still going to be the one thing as of now. And in our near future, it doesn't look like AI is going to replace creativity. It can mimic, it can try to make up things, but it's based upon data that's been fed into it. So I do like that you mentioned creativity. With that being said, you mentioned a couple coding languages and software and applications to develop code in. What are your thoughts on if someone wanted to start today? They watch this video, they're listening to you speak right now, and they said, "Hey, I'm interested in coding. What should be the first coding language I use if I want to get into coding and start my career?" Would you say something like Python? Would you say something like C++, C++? What would be the first language you would recommend for someone that wants to start today, right now, day one?
Jim, this really depends on what your interests are. There are, coding languages for everything. There's different coding languages that fit different uh, met, different things that you're trying to build. Like for example, if you want to program a chip, you're looking at Verilog and VHD output. Yeah, so that's programming language as well. If you're looking at driver development, something that's code that's going to enable hardware, you're looking at mostly C-based development. Some people even use assembly language still for certain tasks. Yeah, then you have you have higher level languages. You've got C++, which comes with its reusable code. Yeah, you've got Java, which is again, at the intersection of C++ and at the application layer. Yeah, you've got lots of database programming tools, scripts, and so on. You've got code that goes into building websites and web-based applications. You've got you know I mean uh, code, there's no limit to it. Python is an excellent, code, language as well. Used extensively, even when you're testing low-level stuff. There's no wrong place to start. Every place, depending on what you're trying to build, is the right place to start.
I like that. So you heard it from Mr. Sakar himself. Just pick a place. Think about a destination, do a little bit of research, and just start your learning journey. I will caveat to that. If you are thinking about what's going to be advantageous coding wise in the future, I wholeheartedly recommend, and I'll put the link in the description below to save you the Google search. But IBM has a Qiskit program, which is their quantum software development program that's completely free. You just sign up for a free account and you can start going through their library of documentation, doing your self-study, and start learning how to develop software that can be run on quantum circuits. And so if you're thinking about what's in the future for coding, I wholeheartedly encourage you to check out that. It'll be in the description below. So, Mrs. Sakar, I want to just ask, what is the big challenge and problem that Pantherun is trying to solve for businesses today?
Oh, we're trying to protect data. Yeah, so our key offering is to encrypt data. Yeah. When you look at data today, there's data everywhere. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we are in a data-driven world. AI, we use AI a lot. Yeah, excuse me for again bringing in that subject. Yeah, but AI works on data. So you need to find better ways, more efficient ways to try and protect data, yeah, so that more and more data can be protected and nobody can tamper with it. So that's what we do. We use AES. AES is a industry standard. It's recognized as a very, very difficult encryption approach that is very, very hard to break if you don't have the key.
Mhm.
And we build encryption solutions using AES. We have a patented approach wherein we can implement AES without key exchanges, without data format changes. So we're in that sense, we're a disruptive implementation of AES that can go into edge devices around us, things like cameras,
Mhm.
sensors, phones, personal computing, and so on.
So, for folks that are hearing this acronym potentially for the first time, if you haven't been studying for an exam that mentions AES, the context that most cyber people know AES is the 256 version because that's the most prevalent one on the internet. So, AES is Advanced Encryption System, and it's the most popular. I would say about 95 plus percent of all symmetric-based systems use AES, whether it's a 128-bit string, 256 is the most popular online, but it's a symmetric based system, which means they have a shared secret key, if you will. And that shared key is what gives it a little bit of an edge because most people hear about RSA, elliptical curve, and Diffie-Hellman. They hear about those. Those are asymmetric algorithms. And so you'll hear a lot in the news about quantum computing and then, what is the risk to encryption standards? And you might have even heard about NIST post-quantum cryptography, where we had a few new kids on the block that have joined this new post-quantum list of certifications or the lattice-based algorithms. But what you need to know about AES as a symmetric key, I give a talk at a lot of conferences since 2017 where I've been focused on AES 256 and what the math behind it to crack it. And it's gargantuan, folks. It's a lot of compute power that will need to be thrown at it. But there was an interesting news story in the past few weeks where China, and again, we got to caveat any story that comes out of China, you got to take with a grain of salt because until they publish all their records to the community and it can be vetted and validated by the rest of industry, it's just what they're saying. It's a one-sided story. But the story says that a 22-bit AES key was compromised, okay, or weakened would be the better term. So the theory suggests that with a powerful enough quantum computer, that AES 128 would be halved. The weakening is halving the key strength of the algorithm. So if this holds true at that exponential scale, which means we don't know how many qubits that may be and how much error correction because of Grover's iteration. I don't want to go down the quantum rabbit hole with you folks right now, but the short is this. If what they just cracked at the bit level they cracked at, if you can expand it up to 256, theoretically, if true and proven, because science is all about proving that it works, that it could half the strength of AES 256 to a 128, making it weaker. Now, does it mean it can compromise? Not necessarily yet, but it is steps in that direction. So, with that being said, does Pantherun have any plans to adopt some of the newer post-quantum algorithms or to potentially look at higher key strengths like 1024 and higher, even up to the 4K, which some people are saying they're just going right to 4K bit strength? What are your perceptions and your perspectives on that, Mr. Sakar?
Jim, we definitely look at that. I mean, we've done implementations of 256, 384, 512, all the way to 1K. So that's one way to look at it. But you're just complicating the processing. Yeah, because I mean, you need a bigger chip to process a key that's longer and longer. Yeah, so that's one way to solve the problem, but it's in the long run, that's not great for the environment because the bigger chip will generate lots of heat, yeah,
Mhm.
consume a lot of power and things
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
So I
So
just
so
want to
there
kind of
there is that.
quickly explain what Mr. Sakar is saying because a lot of people they just say, well, we'll just up the key strength, we'll double it to 1024, 2048, and so on and so forth. And you hear this spoken, but you ever hear the term easier said than done? Because anytime you're doing an algorithm run or processing a key, there's compute behind that. And that means the computer has to do some work to work the algorithm to generate the key, the secret key. And so as you increase that key string, so in security, we probably hear about that delicate balance between operations and security, right? We want something to be useful, meaning if you had to wait, remember back in the day when we had like telephone lines for our internet? For some of you older folks, above 40 years old, you remember dial-up internet. And of course, the internet was like 14 baud, 14 kilobits a second, and so forth. And it got faster and faster. Then we had DSL lines, then we had fiber, and now we have wireless 5G. Everything's gotten faster, faster over the past 20 plus years. But imagine if every time you tried to do an operation that required that algorithm and you had to wait, let's say you had to wait 5 minutes to send an email, to send a message, to just move data. Everything took 5 minutes minimum. you would hate your work life. You would be like, why am I spending 5 minutes every time I try to do something? Now, I'm just saying 5 minutes, but theoretically, there is a delay the more that you increase the key string because it has to encrypt it as well as later on decrypt it. And that takes compute. And if you don't and can't afford to compute, then it just means it takes more time. So more compute means less time. So how much money is your company willing to pay for that security over operations trade-off? So that's why when people say, well, why are we still using AES-256? Because it can work fast enough given our hardware and components and the speed and the expectation of operations. There's the balance. AES-256 runs 95+% of symmetric activity on the internet for a reason. And that's a reason why it's not up to 512 yet, because it would just really flood and bog down our current level of compute that we have. So Mr. Sakar brings up a great, great point that a lot of people don't talk about it because most people say, well, we'll just double the key string. We'll quadruple those key string. But they don't understand that there's a lot in the background. Like what I said about your phone, we just see the screen. We don't understand what's going on with the hardware in the back. And now we would see the problems with the hardware in the back if we just double and quadruple our key strings. So it's not the easiest answer. And so it's a very challenging problem. So thank you for bringing that point up, Mr. Sakar, because a lot of people don't talk about that as like they should. Um, is there any
Thank you,
other
Jim.
things that you have that you're working either with Pantherun or maybe a new initiative or a new solution that you're working with that you'd like to share with us today?
Yes, continuing on the path of uh, quantum safe. You have, of course, algorithms that people, are coming out. You have crystal fiber, crystal dilithium, you've got strings plus, and so on. These are all algorithms that are much more compute intensive, but they are also good protection from quantum attacks. So there's always those implementations. There's other methods in which quantum attacks can be thwarted. Don't exchange a key. So Pantherun, we've also built a patented approach where we can generate keys dynamically at real time at both ends. Yeah, so there is no need for a key exchange. So that's something that we're putting out into the market, particularly on edge networks, which cannot afford key protection technologies like public key infrastructure, which is expensive. Yeah.
Mhm.
There are so many methods that are coming out from people in this place, in this field. They are using quantum channels for key exchange. So there are many types of innovations that are coming out. Some from Panther, some from a lot of other people. So it's a collaborative effort. If we have to protect networks, if we have to
Mhm.
protect data, it's about all of us finding a way to work together.
Well, I love that. And I love the collaboration within the industry lately. Because if you would have went back 10, 15 years ago, there were so many silos with technologies, especially emerging tech 15, 10 years ago, where no one wanted to share. Everything was proprietary. Everybody didn't want to collaborate. But I think we've learned over time we're stronger together. And by collaborating, we can bring things to market faster. And the goal isn't just profits. The goal is security and making sure speed of operations is there as well. So I love that we have a more collaborative environment within industry. I love it. So, Mr. Sakar, we could talk forever about data protection, and I know you've got 30 plus years behind you of so many stories you could share. But the one story that I really want to share with anyone watching this podcast is, would you mind sharing us the story of your day one? And when I say your day one, back 30 plus years ago when you made that decision to say, I want to make my career in security. Is there a story, either a funny story or just a regular story? What was the thing happening in your life that made you say, you know what, this is the direction I want to go to? And what does that day one look like? If you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Jim, honestly, I didn't start my career thinking about security at all. Yeah, I was just an ASIC design engineer. Trying to develop silicon. One of the first projects that I worked on was as part of a large team that was building micromotors in silicon. Yeah, and these were going to control wing flaps on Boeing and Airbus planes.
Oh, wow.
That's where my career started. But right from that day, I started seeing how how people were protective about code. So they wanted protection systems there for to protect their IP, protect their code, and the company I worked for ultimately licensed out the technology that we were building. So there were licensing costs there. There was, I mean, you had to encrypt that code so that, I mean, nobody would violate the IP and so on. So very early on, I learned that, I mean, protecting whether it's code, whether it's data, I mean, there's a very, very great value in this word. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and
Now, if
then
I
over
heard
my
you,
career, yeah,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Oh,
No.
well, if
And
I heard,
over
I
my
didn't mean to
career, I
interrupt you,
worked on all
but
this.
you mentioned that your first project was creating code to make the flaps move on a plane. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he
Yes.
talks
Yes.
about hardware meeting software and protecting data, how crucial is that than an airplane holding 100, people plus the crew that depends on that software being exactly right every time it's called for to execute? I mean, that's as critical as it gets, in my opinion, because you have hundreds of people's lives in your hand over the course of how many flights does a plane make a day, right? If it's a regional flight, long haul
Yeah.
flight, it's moving hundreds of people a day to thousands a week. I mean, my God, that is as critical as it gets. So that's so exciting that thank you for sharing that because I would never have thought about when you talked earlier about the intersection of software and data meets hardware. Wow, the flap on the plane and it's unfortunate that we've had a few plane crashes recently, and without going into
Yeah.
the details of those crashes, but whenever it's a mechanical failure, you have to think, how critical that is. And so the intersection of software data meets hardware. Wow, wow, what a crucial project you worked on, and thank you for working on something as crucial and important as that. Um, Obviously, by working on projects like that, and I'm sure you've worked on many other critical, crucial projects of the like, that it must have been either coworkers, colleagues, a manager, or maybe someone that was a leader in avionics, security engineering, or coding that you looked up to and admired and said, one day I want to be like this person. Are there any folks that really had a positive impact on you throughout your career that you want to kind of pay homage to and just kind of say, hey, this colleague was very helpful to me, this manager really helped lead me, and this leader in industry? Is there any names that you would like to mention to kind of say like a thank you, to them?
Jim, to be honest with you, it's been a fairly long career, and I've had wonderful associations. I've had the good fortune of working with some of the smartest people you could find. I mean, I wouldn't want to name one or two, and then I mean, yeah, but it's been an amazing journey. I've met some of the best chip designers in the business. Some people who've been coding SCADA systems or drivers and so on around me. I've been very greatly influenced by them. Learned a lot from all the people. So it's been a journey where I've learned from so many people. Very hard to name one. Yeah,
No, I
but
appreciate that.
and
And
even managerial, I mean, I've seen such wonderful managers of people, such wonderful builders of companies as well. Every step, I've learned so much from all of these people.
And one of the things I advocate to a lot of folks that you're watching right now going, well, I'm brand new to this world. I'm brand new to coding. I'm brand new to, whatever sector that you're looking at of cyber and the industry to come into. I advise everyone, the pool is warm. We need you. We need everybody with your knowledge, your experience, your perspectives, no matter if you're transitioning careers or if you just got out of high school or college and you're looking for where to start. The water's warm. We need everyone in the industry with every background and every facet and every area that you could imagine. There's so many ways to get into this industry. But one of the things I highly recommend to everybody, if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, create a free LinkedIn profile. And whatever you're interested in, start looking up and Googling who are the experts in SCADA, who are the experts in OT, who is experts in quantum computing, and start just sending connection requests. And then if you have questions, 9 times out of 10 people on LinkedIn are so helpful to either provide you an answer or even send you a link to say, hey, I would do more reading on this YouTube channel or on this website, or here's a training platform that has a lot of free training. There's so many people in the industry that are helping others, sharing knowledge and information, but LinkedIn is a great hub for that, folks. So if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, or if you do have a LinkedIn profile, dust it off and start sending out connection requests and connecting with experts and people that are in these industries and different sectors of cyber. I didn't know Mr. Sakar until I sent him a connection request. We've connected, had a short, quick discussion, and now we're doing a podcast episode together. Folks, it's that easy. I always live by this mantra that the answer is always no unless you ask. You ask, and if they say no, it's no. It's okay. Move on to the next person. But when you get the yeses, that's where the magic is. And like right now, we're on a podcast together because Mr. Sakar said yes. And so again, I implore everyone, dust off your LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, sign up for a free account and start connecting with people because it's people that makes projects happen, programs get stood up, and just things get better with people. So, Mr. Sakar,
Not
I
just
just have,
AI,
huh?
not just AI.
Not just AI, it's people and it's
Right,
people that made
right,
the AIs, right? So,
right.
Mr. Sakar, I have a section of my podcast. I ask all my guests. It's a moment of levity where I ask some rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer, so I'm just going to hit you with some questions. Just whatever the first answer comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer. So, if you'll humor me, this is kind of the kind of fun moment of the podcast. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. The first question splits the room. Okay. First question: Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star
Star Trek.
Trek.
Which crew of the Star Trek is your favorite? You can name
Spock.
the captain of the crew.
No, I said Spock.
Oh, Spock. I didn't hear. Okay. Favorite character, Spock. Okay. Spock's a great character. Well, do you prefer the newer Spock or the original Leonard Nimoy Spock?
The Leonard Nimoy,
Leonard
the
Nimoy. He's
original
a
one.
wonderful actor. Gone too soon. Next question. Cake or pie?
Cake,
What kind of cake?
chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake. Good answer. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Okay, yes. All right, and the last question in this series, what has been the most favorite book you've read of all time, and what was the last book you've read?
I love the Bourne series, so I would say Bourne and Identity.
Okay, wonderful. Then the movies, real
Yeah.
great movies with Matt Damon.
Right,
And then
right,
what was the
right.
last book you've read?
And the last one I read was Monk Who Sold a Ferrari.
Okay. Well, if you give me those links to Amazon for those titles of those books, I'll put them in the description below to save you guys watching the search on Google. So to kind of wrap up, I know a lot of us, and you're a CEO of Pantherun Technologies. You're working with emerging technologies like quantum and trying to find out new innovative ways to protect data, which I know, and just by itself, what I just said is a big mouthful to say you're a very busy man. But a lot of us that are super busy, we still make time for charities, nonprofit work, volunteer work, things that are near and dear to our heart, whether we give of our time, our money, but is there a charity, nonprofit organization that is near and dear to your heart that you just want to shine a light on them and just mention them, and then we'll put their socials and website in the description so people can learn about them that you'd like to shine a light on?
Yes. There's a charity called Cry. Yeah. It takes care of children. Yeah, and I mean, I do contribute to that charity. Yeah, I do a few other things as well. There's a non-profit which works on trying to build out underprivileged children to help them get into sports and I mean, get better at it and maybe even compete and so on. So I,
Wonderful.
if I can spend, I mean, a lot of times it's just the money. I wish I could spend more time
Yes,
doing something about it. Yeah, unfortunately, Pantherun takes up a lot of my time right now, but I hope in future to be a more active part of doing something for people around me.
wonderful. And if you wouldn't mind, just send me the links, whether the website or
I
social
will.
pages, and I'll
Yeah,
put them in the description
yeah,
below. Thank you for shining a light on those great organizations doing good in this world. We just don't have enough good, right? The news is bad, life
yes.
sometimes is bad, but it's good to see people just doing good in this world. Mr. Sakar, we're pretty much at the end of this podcast, and I give all of my guests the final word. So whatever you'd like to say or talk about, the floor is yours, sir.
I think it's a wonderful honor to be here. Yeah, and I hope that I mean, whatever we talked about today helps more and more people come into I mean, product development in the technology fields. Yeah, build solutions, solve problems. Yeah, and I mean, make this a better world. It doesn't need to be in cybersecurity. It can be in any form of life as long as
Mhm.
we can build something that helps other people.
Well, there you have it. Mr. Sakar, CEO of Pantherun Technologies, doing great work in industry. And again, what a great thing. We are the thinkers and creators, and it takes you and everybody else to make things work. So thank you so much, Mr. Sakar, for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All right.
Pleasure